All right, boys and girls, we are live. It is BTB Analytics. We are here, college football week 10. We made it to double digits, boys. Lot of season in the books. Long way to go, though. So we got a lot of games to break down as usual. You guys know the drill. We got a lot to cover. Let's get into it.
Give a damn about a hater when I feel like it. Not today, not today, not today, not tomorrow. Get out my way, please. I'm trying to get paid. Not today.
All right. So, week 10, boys. Glad to be back with you. I know I missed a couple this past month. I don't even know how many I missed, but glad to be back with you
You were
all.
here last week.
Was it last week, dude?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, I am all kind of turned around. I got another week to like recalibrate still. But
But it's good to have you back.
we good. Officially, the mustache is now a Halloween preparation. But
Okay. What are we? What are you going to be?
I'm gonna be Goose from Top Gun.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I got to go full stash, But
Makes sense.
I digress. So, all right, we got a lot of good matchups to break down. Again, it's college football week 10. Let's just get into it, guys. No need to beat around the bush. Friday night, another Friday night matchup. This is a team we talked about last week, but let's head over to and talk about San Diego State and Boise State. This one, man, I guess, Seth, open-ended question for you, or let me know what you think, because we talked about Boise State last week, and they ended up, they ended up winning the game, but not covering, not hitting the total either. God damn it, or not hitting the over either. But is this the game where Ashton Genty's did I say that right? His campaign or Heisman campaign gets back on track. He had one quote unquote bad game last week where he didn't score a touchdown till the fourth quarter, and his Heisman odds like virtually not plummeted, but he's at least like the fifth or sixth man in the running, so to speak. Now, so they're still a very efficient and potent rushing team.
Yeah.
Oops, excuse me. And San Diego State, on the flip side of it, one of the worst in the country in defending it. So, is it again? I will ask the question I asked last week. Is it just as simple as give Ashton the ball and let this thing roll?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you've hit the head on the nail. Boise State, again, the one thing I want to point out here is they are really good on the rush. They're the number 2 overall rushing EPA team, but they're the 10th most efficient passing team. So this team can do both. But to your point, Boise State second rushing offense, San Diego State 110th against the run. San Diego State's 30th defending the pass. So if you're going to look at San Diego State's defensive weakness here, it's definitely on the ground. And I do think this is where they are going to have success. Boise State is also 8th in points per Eckel. And so I think that they're going to have success. Now, the only thing that I have here is Boise State is not very good defensively. So when we're looking at the cover here, you can see the models picking up on this a bit and show some value on San Diego State. Boise State really struggles. They're 70th in Eckel rate over expected and 95th in points per Eckel. So teams can drive on them. Teams can score on them. And the thing that makes it hard to cover if you're wanting to be a Boise backer here is if Gentry is going to get the ball, they're going to get a lot of efficiency there. The problem with the run game and going to it so often is it's going to eat up a lot of that clock, which makes it really hard to cover a 4-possession spread, especially when your defense isn't probably going to do you any favors. So that's the one caution I would, rise to anybody on Friday night where they open their app and they say, yeah, this is the game. Their run defense sucks. Be a little bit wary of Boise State's defense. But if you're looking at Gentry alone, yeah, I do think this is a game for him to shine, no doubt.
Yeah. Okay. And Steve, I mean, we got to call it like it is. I mean, this is from here on out. Boise State has playoff games. If they lose another game, they're effectively out of the contention. So they're definitely going to show up. They have to show up, mentally, from an emotional standpoint. But to Seth's point, like 3 scores is a lot to potentially cover here. So do you think they do enough on offense to expose that Boise pass defense to keep up?
Yeah, I do. I'm absolutely drinking the Boise State Kool-Aid here. And it's not so much just Boise State and what Ashton Genty's done. And we talked about it last week, all the accolades with the rushing touchdowns, the rushing yards, and how he's leading the nation, as well as Maddox Matson, really doing a thing through the air. And they're surprisingly balanced approach. One thing I will say from the Boise State offense side, why I think they're going to have a lot of success here is San Diego State is absolutely dead last in the Mountain West. in defensive stuff rate. And so what that means is the percentage of running plays where the running back is stopped at or behind the line of scrimmage. You cannot have that with Ashton Jeanty. You have to get pressure because he's averaging damn near 10 yards per carry. So they can't do that. It's going to be a long night. But what I'm actually highlighting here is I'm picking apart some other data where I'm actually liking Boise State's defense in this. I know Seth talked about the points per echo, and we talk about some of these advanced stats. If you're kind of new here, you may not hear other people talk about, but we're really looking at things that are looking at, how predictive are they to outcomes, so winning games, and again, what with covering. But I'm going to take a step from the traditional stats we talk about and look at this. So first things first, San Diego State, third straight game with the rest disadvantage coming into this one. So again, Boise State played last Friday night. San Diego State plays Saturday night. So you do have an extra day of prep and recovery for Boise State. But what I'm looking at here is I am concerned about San Diego State's ability to get things going against Boise State's offense, particularly Trey White, who leads the country in total sacks per game, and tackles for loss. And Boise State's leading the Mountain West, again, in that stuff rate I talked about earlier, which what that does is it forces teams into passing downs. So are you going to have a situation where you're relying on, in this case, true freshman quarterback Danny O'Neil to really put the team on his back against a Boise State team that also leads the Mountain West in havoc? And so when we talk about havoc, those are plays where tackle for loss, forcing a fumble, intercepting the ball, breaking up a pass. When you're putting the ball more and more in that true freshman's hand, you run the rate of more bad things happening against the BSU team who's proven they can do it. Now, you can argue those are definitely high variance plays, and that's something you want to put your hat on week in and week out. But if you're asking me a scenario like Boise State covering 24, yeah, I think the writing's on the wall. You get Jeanty going, and then you need just a couple of crazy plays, turnovers deep in the territory for Boise State to cover that without needing so many possessions.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Shogun Mike was talking about, Jeanty's going for 202 TDs. We've seen some pretty egregious odds for him from the books, like minus 1,000 to score a touchdown or minus 1,000 for 100 yards or whatever. Yeah. With this San Diego State rushing defense, I am very curious to see what the books, open up for him. It's going to be like minus 1,000 for the parlay option, probably 202 tutties.
We talked about this last week. Caution, caution, caution. Boise State is a pass-first team. Their run rate over expected is negative 1.8, meaning they throw the ball 1.8% more than an average team. So, yes, he's the real deal. Yes, he's good. Yes, I think he's going to have success. But you're probably getting ripped off if you're going to take his overs. Now, I'm not telling you not to do it. Look, I get it.
You don't say.
Go for it. But I'm just saying, like, they're the 10th best passing team. Yeah, they're the 10th best passing team. Like, they can throw the ball, and against UNLV, I mean, they had to rely on that quite a lot in order to win that game. So yeah. I just caution there. Like, this isn't just free money. Does it cash? Maybe.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, this one a little too rich for my blood. We don't have an official play on it from a model perspective. Leaned a little bit for San Diego State, but
yeah, market hasn't touched this at all. I was looking earlier. I think it's sitting exactly where it was, where it opened.
Yeah, Jonesy says Panthers need to draft. I always fuck up his last name.
Jeanty.
I don't know why. I want to pronounce I want to add like some French flair to it, Jeanty or something. Yeah. Jeanty. Okay, yeah, but yeah, it says Panthers need to draft him. That's you're gonna have another Bryce Young situation on your hands there. You can do Shiza in that
option.
Yeah.
What's the worst that could happen? Yeah.
All right, we'll see what Boise and Jeanty can do here Friday night. But let's head over to Saturday and talk about some interesting games. A few games that actually also have some quarterback question marks. We'll get into a little bit later. Not this one though. This one should be actually. Never mind. I take that back. This one included.
Yeah, probably the biggest.
Ohio State and Penn State. Let's talk about it. So we make the number 4 markets currently at 4. There's some 4.5s I saw earlier today. I don't know if those are still available, but yeah, Drew Aller, obviously the big question mark in this one. So I guess open-ended or discussion point for you guys. We used to hear this talking point for Michigan for many, many seasons when they would go undefeated and finally play Ohio State or somebody. Oh, you haven't played anybody. I kind of want to have that discussion with respect to Penn State because I am not I'm not particularly sold running through their who they've played to date and have been very impressed. So let's work under the assumption that this is some, Penn State obfuscation, just gamesmanship, and that Drew Aller is going to play. If that's the case, I guess tell me why you think their resume is impressive today and why do you think they have a chance against Ohio State? Because I'm not sold.
I'm sold. Yeah, I'm
first.
sold. So
Go
I guess
first.
let me back up because I want to give you some objective based opinions or objective based arguments, and then I want to give you the emotional stuff. So let me start with the emotional stuff first. Let's just get it out the way. All right. We said time in and time out. You've heard this across the nation. Penn State doesn't have a winning problem. Penn State has an Ohio State and Michigan problem, right? Penn State does not lose to teams that are not named Ohio State and Michigan year in and year out. And back when they were the Big Ten divisions, that's what screwed them over, was that they had to play, or they're in the same division as Ohio State and Michigan. James Franklin, 1-9 against Ohio State in his time there at Penn State. But if not this year, when? Like, this is the perfect storybook ending, okay? Penn State is tied for first in the Big Ten. They don't have to play Michigan. They don't have to play Indiana, who is killing it out there, and they don't have to play Oregon, okay? And they're ahead of Ohio State right now, who has the one loss to Oregon there. So if not, I mean, all the stars are aligning for Penn State to finally make their run and kind of get into where they need to be. Now, you mentioned it first. Let's talk about it real quick. So the biggest question is going to be Drew Aller's health. We've heard James come out and say, he is going to be essentially a game time decision. He trusts Drew Aller's sort of experience. He's going to let him know, hey, are you being honest with me? Do you feel you can go? The issue in the last game was that Drew Aller, after he got hurt, he went to the tent, undisclosed lower left leg injury, but he was wearing that knee brace. And essentially he was telling Franklin that the mobility just wasn't there, right? So he couldn't feel like he run the offense, and said, hey, out of precaution, everything, let's keep you out. So why is that important, right? Because Drew Aller in 30 career games at Penn State has 387 rushing yards, okay? If he cannot go, it's going to be Bo Pribula, who's going to go in there, and he has 462 yards in 18 games. Now, he's not a world beater, but what I'm saying is you have a mobility option that you do not currently have with Drew Aller, and is that going to sort of make a difference? Can you get some sort of dynamic rushing to complement what you're going to lose in experience and probably pocket presence with Drew Aller? So why can Penn State cover this game? Why can Penn State win this game? Because Ohio State's offensive line is absolutely suspect, and it's decimated in injury on the strong side. So 2 weeks ago, they lost left tackle Josh Simmons in that Oregon game, and that's a BFD because he's tied fourth for fewest tackles for loss given up and 10th in fewest sacks allowed in the nation. So he went down, right? So then you had Zen Mikowski come in when he went down last week. And now Ryan Day says that he's a game time decision. And we saw this in that Nebraska game where once Mikowski went out, they had to put in left guard Donovan Jackson over to the left tackle spot. And you had this makeshift line. And Ohio State really did not look that impressive at all in my mind against Nebraska. And this is absolutely a place where Penn State can exploit, and quite frankly, are going to have to exploit if they have any shot in winning this game against Ohio State. So I think what you see here is Penn State dominating that offensive line, making it a very tough day for Travion Henderson and Quashawn Jenkins to run the ball and really kind of make Ohio State's really kind of disrupt their entire game flow. And the last thing I'll say is Penn State is absolutely number one in the Big Ten in defensive stuff rate. So they've done it so far. There is a mechanism for them to stop the run. It's just a matter of can they execute.
Okay. Checkmate?
No. Those are all some fancy stats that mean a whole lot of nothing. These teams are extremely similar, to be frank with you. I don't know that I buy the easy strength of schedule. I mean, if you compare the first 4 games between these two teams, I think Ohio State's had the easier path, to be honest. Look, Penn State, 4th passing the ball, 61st rushing team. I think that could be an issue. Talking to what you were talking about, Steve, that could be an issue, especially if Aller is a go. Do they want to have more of that rushing attack? And I do know they have some packages for that backup that they've brought him in and run some fancy stuff like out of that. So to your point, maybe that is a bigger deal for Penn State, that he's already kind of ready to go. He's got some game time play. But I think if we look at weighted EPA, Penn State's number 2 offensively, Ohio State's number 3. We look at a defensive weighted EPA, Penn State's 12th and Ohio State's 13th. I mean, these teams are really, really evenly matched. And we're seeing it here at a 4-point spread. And the market's now bought this down to 3.5. So we're seeing some support. I think you want Aller to be a go here. I think he's the better of the options, give them a little bit more.
Yeah.
What I'm concerned is Ohio State. Penn State's what I'm concerned about Penn State's pass defense, 33rd against the pass here. Ohio State 5th passing overall offense. So is this the game where, Ohio State's passing offense can get going? And we saw what they could do in the first half against Nebraska. Now, they were not able to pull away, and that is disturbing. And this team looks fallible. This team does look fallible. So I will meet you there that in my mind, this is a toss-up. This one's really hard. I don't mind liking the dog here. It does seem like this, if there is a time that Penn State's going to be able to get the kind of monkey off their back, so to speak, maybe this is it. But this one's really close. Even our raw model number makes this number 3. We're right on there. So this is a coin flip game to me.
Yeah, a lot of uncertainty remains. The Aller question mark. But I want to run a couple of things by you guys and see if it tilts the scales in any which way here. So the defenses that Penn State has faced to date, we'll just say, lack of a better word, not very impressive. Okay, I'm just going to run through these real quick. So Penn State's opponents from beginning of the season to last week in adjusted EPA per play allowed. Okay, so we're taking in home field advantage, quality of opponent, and garbage time, controlling for those. So West Virginia, number 124th in the country. Bowling Green, shout out, number 135th. Kent State, number 133. Illinois, number 97. UCLA, number 103. USC, surprise, number 54. And then Wisconsin, 45. Ohio State, on the flip side of this, or coming into this one, they are number 6 in the country in adjusted EPA per play allowed and number 3 in success rate allowed. If Aller is out, yeah, they might have some packages for him. They might try to get cute or something. He might be able to, do a little, catch him off guard a couple of times in the first half or something. But we don't know what it's going to look like. And in my mind, I think you have to roll with the more sure thing in this situation. And that's, that Ohio State's defense is far and away the best that the Penn State offense will have seen to date. So that to me is.
Are we not going to run through the Ohio State schedule?
That was my exact next question.
You must have a plus 4 here.
No, you mean I got the minus
Akron?
4?
What was that?
You mean I got the minus 4 Ohio State?
Oh yeah, good. Yeah, fair point. Akron didn't cover. WMU, I don't even know who that is. But
Western Michigan.
Okay. Is that
all right? I
Marshall, Michigan State.
I did
Iowa.
jot these down for you just to be fair. I knew someone was going to come clap back here. Okay. Ohio State's opponents in adjusted EP per play allowed. Akron 114, Western Michigan 127, Marshall 100, Michigan State 87, Iowa 27, Oregon 25, and Nebraska 62. I didn't aggregate them.
Allowed or on offense? Because you're making the argument, right? I am Ohio State's defense versus
these are both quality of defenses for both.
Okay,
just apples to apples. So the still point being, like, if you are all of a sudden going to be playing a backup quarterback
that has playing time though, it's easy.
18 games,
sure.
Yeah,
again, they might get cute. They might get cute with some packages here.
ESPN strength of record: Penn State is number 5. Ohio State is 16th.
Yeah. Hey, all models are wrong. Some are useful.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think we have a discrepancy of schedule for these two teams. Personally, I think these are pretty evenly keeled teams. Can we bring up the forecast there? And then the one thing Ohio State does have, I think they're the overall number 1 ranked talent wise. Yeah, it's either. No, you had the right one first, Eric. But but you can see the power rating here. But yeah, the talent there, the team talent, you can see that, you know, Ohio State has some dudes. But to your point, Steve, that's a question mark, because that like injury thing can go both ways. Because unfortunately or fortunately, if you're Ohio State, you know, college is a bit different than the NFL. Your third string tackle could be a 5-star. Like, now, does it, you know, you might not have any playing time, but like, it's not like they may not be dropping off a huge cliff. Now, obviously, you want your starter to start, but we'll see.
I think for me though, I think we've seen. I agree with you there, but I think my issue is we've seen number one and number two at the same position taken away, and now you're mixing and moving O-linemen to different positions. I think for me, that's the key difference, where I think there could be an exploitation. But you're absolutely right, though. Doesn't mean that their left guard, you know, wasn't a left tackle in high school and it got converted to guard. You know, I have no idea, right?
But it is the, you know, the weak link system, right? So if you all of a sudden take 4 really strong linemen and you throw in a shitty one, like, that's not good.
Right. And I guess for me, the last thing I'll say, Kev, you know, and I don't have the numbers, but I have the exact opposite argument there for Ohio State. I'm not saying that Ohio State's defense is overrated or trash, not by any means. But again, we kind of go through of who they played offensively, and the one that really sticks out to me is Oregon, the one that put up 32 points, and you know, Gabriel kind of moved the ball there. And then maybe you can say Nebraska, you know, Iowa's getting some love here and there, but they've kind of been not a world burner. So I don't really know if I'm not calling Penn State's offense elite by any means of the imagination, but I think they have enough here to have a chance, because to Seth's point earlier about the strength of schedule, you can I think you can make the same argument. I think it's a fair one, but you can make it for Ohio State and Penn State.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We shall see. It should be a fun matchup, regardless of whether Aller plays or not. I mean, if he does eventually get ruled out, then we'll see what the market does or how much it's going to be anticipatory up until that point. But
so are you on? Do you really like Ohio State here, or you're just
they're my off the numbers this week?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Shout out. So, all right.
I'm sorry, real quick. Shogun Mike, who hurt you, man? I'm sorry. Did James Franklin make a great Dallas Cowboys coach? Just keep disappointing.
Damn.
Backup quarterbacks, rookie quarterbacks, Nebraska, Dylan Raiola. That was a pretty close game.
Yeah.
True. Okay. All right. We shall see. It should be a good one. Like I said,
this will be a good game. I really do believe that based off of these numbers, like, this should be a really good game.
Agreed. All right. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, if you're tuning in, appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Helps us out tremendously. We appreciate you guys being here and interacting with us. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. Do you have any questions? Agree with these takes or not? If you want to see other information or other stats, let us know. We're happy to try to oblige the best we possibly can. So let's move on to another matchup with not a quarterback question mark, but just a quarterback change from injury standpoint. So Graham Mertz is out for Florida and the Georgia matchup, and DJ Lagway is in. This one's interesting, Seth, because he, again, backup quarterback with some reps here. He seems like, in a small sample size, he seems like a guy who's very high risk, high reward. Like, likes to take chunk plays, you know, has, I think, 5 TDs, 5 picks. So has a few other several turnover worthy plays as well. So Florida, we've been on them kind of technically all season. You know, we took their over 4.5 wins, and they're sitting pretty right at 4, but their schedule the rest of the way is you know, not ideal. But nonetheless, they've played a lot better than I think a lot of people were giving them credit for prior to the season. This being again a 2-score spread at this point, I wish there was some more value on Florida, because I kind of want to sprinkle on them, or maybe just take them outright against the spread. Not to win, but yeah, just to clarify. But you know, I think they have been overall a far more impressive team than even I thought going into this season. So all 3 of their losses are to top 10 teams now, guys, at this point.
Yeah,
which is pretty crazy.
Well, and so they could have went for 2 and try to win against Tennessee. Why they didn't do that, I'll never understand.
Yeah. So you know, Georgia coming off that win, their last game against Texas, beating Texas pretty handily. So, Steve, what is your assessment of this one, and can the backup for Mertz, you know, do enough to keep pace?
Yeah. Okay. Just dream with me here. Okay, dream with me. I'm not saying Florida is going to win this game. I'm not saying that. but we make this number 15, right?
Raw number's 11.
Raw numbers, okay. Raw numbers 11. Even better, right? Current spread, I think we had a 16. I think there's a clear pathway for Florida to cover here. Okay, so like you mentioned, Kev, right? You know, Graham Mertz ACL torn in the Tennessee game. DJ Lagway came in there, scored a touchdown to tie that game up, and then like Seth mentioned, went to overtime and this and that. Through 7 games, excuse me, 2 starts. Just want to rattle off some quick stats here. I'm gonna tie this all together. So 54 for 86 is DJ Lagway. Okay. Like you said, 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. His QB rating of 170.4 ranks him 3rd in the SEC, 10th in the nation among quarterbacks with at least 80 pass attempts, okay, or 80 pass completions. He entered the bye week leading all FBS quarterbacks in completion percentage on 20+ yards passes thrown downfield, okay? They have a trio of receivers, okay? Elijah Badger, Chimere DK, and Eugene Wilson III. Badger leads the FBS with 23.8 yards per catch. DK is 5th. Okay. This is a very small sample size. All right. But what the picture I'm painting here is you have an explosive offense. You have a Florida team who, by the numbers, and again, you almost have to discredit this because it's only been a game and a half, or really two and a half games, is technically more explosive, has higher success, and is more efficient under DJ Lagway than it was with Graham Mertz. And you have a Georgia defense that is ranked kind of middle of the pack in explosive plays given up defensively in the SEC. So all I'm saying is you have a chance here where a couple explosive plays goes Florida way, and all of a sudden you have a 1-score game deep in the 4th quarter. Now, we all saw what Georgia did to Texas, especially in the first half. They kind of beat up all on them. We also saw what Georgia did in the second half against Alabama, coming back and taking the lead. Of course, this is an elite team, but let's not forget, Georgia did struggle with the 1-4 Mississippi State, and they gave up 31 points in that game. So I think there's a pathway where a couple of plays go the wrong way, and all of a sudden you've got a tight one late in the game. So I do kind of like the dog here.
Okay, my only one other thing I wanted to add, Seth, before I get your 2 cents here. A lot of that conceptually makes sense, and I think the directive to Lagway is probably going to be air it out, son. Like, just try to do your thing. Like, let's do this. High risk, high reward, like I was saying. But to date, Florida is 107th in the country in late down success rate. So my question is, if those don't work, and those are obviously not high probability plays to begin with, how do they otherwise sustain drives against this Georgia team? That's the one thing that kind of concerns me for them going into this one.
Well, Steve said that Florida can't win this game, but I'm going to tell you why they can. Okay, Florida can very much win this game.
Okay.
Florida is 27th in weighted EPA. Georgia is 45th in EPA. You talked about it, Lagway. This is not an immature sample. It's a small sample size, yes, but we have a lot of plays for Lagway here. He's played multiple games, started multiple games, came into the Tennessee game, gave them a chance to win that game. For why they didn't go for 2, I have no idea. They could have beat Tennessee at Tennessee. This is a rivalry game. Biggest outdoor cocktail party or whatever it's called in Jacksonville. So we got the rivalry matchup. We got this guy coming in. He exploded all over Kentucky last week, a team that Georgia themselves has had struggles with. And what do we know? What is the one thing that they have struggled with all year? Quarterbacks that can run. Now, I agree with the explosive plays, but this guy can get it going on the ground, and I think he can mix it up enough and give Georgia headaches. Now, is it probable that Florida's going to win? I don't know necessarily, but this is shaping up for them to have an opportunity in this game, no doubt about it. The other thing here, Florida is a bend, don't break defense, 107th in echo rate over expected. They're letting teams get to the 40. That being said, once they get to the 40, they're 19th in points per echo. They're not giving up the touchdown. They're holding teams to a field goal. Georgia has struggled a little bit in the red zone. And I think that given that this is a pretty big matchup as far as rivalry, these teams hate each other. Georgia is a highly, highly recruited team, a bunch of 4- and 5-star recruits. I won't be shocked if Florida can go down there and do the damn thing. And I'm not shocked if Lagway is kind of a spark that this offense is kind of looking for, this team is looking for. Mertz and Lagway are 2 different quarterbacks. They get their efficiency 2 different ways. It sucks the way that Mertz's career is going to end, but this is kind of a new beginning, and I think we may have seen it last week with Kentucky. I mean, they blew up Kentucky. They were one of the few SEC offenses that haven't struggled. Them and Vanderbilt, which who would have thought we would say that? So I do think that there's a pathway here for an upset. Now, I agree with you, Steve. I think a cover is more probable. Our raw model here makes this 11.5. And at this point in the season, our raw model numbers are going to be pretty accurate. We're always going to regress just to make sure we're understanding value relative to the market. We make this way under 2 possessions, right around that 11 number. There's no 17s right now at retail books. Think if this thing gets to 17, I will get a plus 17.
I was going to say the exact same thing.
If you can bet at Pinnacle, there's a 17. There's just not at retail books.
If you're feeling frisky too, best odds you can get if you want to sprinkle money line plus 550. Bet MGM.
Yeah, I may sprinkle on this. It's psychotic, no doubt about it. This is a Hail Mary, but I do agree with that aspect. The first point you made, Kevin, about going for it. They're going to try to get explosives. I don't give a shit about third down conversion because they're screwed. If they're not getting explosives, they're not getting huge chunk plays through him running the ball or whatever. Yeah, I'm not worried about a ground and pound, like methodical win here. This is going to be through explosives. This is going to be through defensive, holding them to 3 instead of 6. I think that's more of the pathway. And we've seen Georgia struggle here.
Right. And I think for me, like that's also my point too, Seth. And I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm curious, Kevin, to the point about I think you said the late down success rate, how much of that is with Mertz versus Lagway. But again, to me, like, it almost doesn't matter because like Seth mentioned, like that can't be the game plan. I don't think, at least, because that's not where you're exploiting Georgia as best you can. It's going to be through your explosives.
Shout out SoCal. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to sprinkle Florida, yeah, you're definitely puckered up, but that's why it's just a sprinkle.
Well, and also, we're kind of inherently on the money line already because we have over 4.5 wins. So
yeah,
if they win, baby, we cash.
Yeah, that's true. We've kind of be double dipping in a sense.
Yeah. Now I will say I might. This for me might be alt season. Normally we do alt season here for the favorite, and we kind of push that out. I might alt season the dog here and try to see, depending on where that goes up, where's Florida at, plus 14.5, something like that. And if I'm feeling real frisky, maybe 13.5, but I really like that 14.
14.5, I think is probably a really good alt. 7.5 is probably the extreme alt. 10.5 is the other.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this good old money line.
Good old money line. Woo!
I mean, Georgia has beaten up on little brother. I guess you can't call it little brother because this is a true rivalry, but they have beaten up on Florida in the last couple of years. So, this can go the opposite way too. With those explosive plays not working, third down conversion not working, this can be all season the other way. The problem is our data just don't get us there on that side. But I can take that argument as well. It's just data driven wise, the model's not showing that.
All right. If anyone's been to the largest outdoor cocktail party, let us know how it is. It's in contention, I think, for next year. We'll see.
I have some ideas.
Okay, fantastic. All right, let's move on down the train, boys. Appreciate you guys being here. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to hit the subscribe on the channel if you haven't already. Helps us out. We're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep this thing rolling. So let's move to a Big 12 matchup, shall we? Let's go to Texas Tech and number 11, Iowa State. Shout out Iowa State. I think one of the probably under the radar, like undefeated teams. I mean, nobody's talking about them. They're one of 8 undefeated teams, and myself included, hand up. Like, I don't think I've watched one game of theirs, or know much of what's really going on there. Another quarterback uncertainty situation, though, guys. Texas Tech and their QB Morton is uncertain with a shoulder issue, so they have a potential true freshman. Shout out coming in and in Hammond potentially to replace him here. So this is an Iowa State team, Seth, that is really just, lack of a better way of saying it, solid kind of on both sides of the ball, in my opinion. And Texas Tech just kind of bottom of the barrel in a couple of particular elements here. So number 115th against the pass, and 1/10 in success rate allowed when passing. So is the recipe here like just let that freshman QB screw up and then just pick apart this Texas Tech defense here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely strategy. So you've hit the head on the nail. I mean, both these teams are good offensively. Texas Tech 23rd in points per equal, Iowa State 32nd in points per equal. The problem here is Texas Tech is 51st in equal rate over expected, but Iowa State's defense is good, and they're 32nd in defensive points per equal. And then on Texas Tech's defensive side of the ball here, we're talking about the 110th defensive equal rate over expected and the 101st points per equal. So I don't know how the hell Iowa State's going to get stopped. And I don't know here because Texas Tech has kind of had shootouts. I don't know how they're going to keep up because, like you said, the freshman quarterback, good defense going up against there for Iowa State. But then on the side of the ball for Texas Tech's offense, for Iowa State's offense, Texas Tech can't stop anything. So what is this shootout going to look like? I mean, it's reflected here in the spread. Although this is a, divisional matchup, we're seeing, 16-point spread here or 14.5. Like, I'm with you. I think the freshman issue probably compounds. I wouldn't be surprised if this number gets even more inflated if that ends up happening, just because, again, how are you actually going to get in this shootout? The numbers just don't support that.
Yeah, Steve. This opened at 12, technically in favor of Iowa State, and as Seth alluded to, moving towards them here as the week rolls on here. So backup QB, another one. This is just kind of one of those weird weeks where all the games that we chose have weird quarterback issues potentially. So yeah, is there anything under the hood here that you see where you think Texas Tech will have a shot of being able to cover here?
I mean, yeah, for the argument's sake, but no, when I'm putting my money down on this. So I want to make a quick note. So Baron Morton had that non-throwing shoulder injury late in the fourth quarter of their last game. Now, head coach Joey McGuire did come out and say that there was nothing wrong structurally. And so he's going to get his reps in practice this week. So there is a legitimate chance he might play. And with it being a non-throwing shoulder, he could be fairly, effective as we kind of expect him to be from what the data have seen or shown with Texas Tech so far. With that being said, the only way in my mind is Texas Tech is still third in the Big 12 in explosiveness, right? So this is the team that is a kind of a high-powered offense, but the problem is, and Seth kind of pointed this out already, Iowa State is tied third best for defensive explosive plays allowed, and they're fourth in havoc. So they're really good at stopping, these kind of plays here. And I gotta be honest, I think we had an Iowa State game earlier this year that I think it was Iowa State versus Iowa. That we were watching earlier this year, and I really didn't think Iowa State. I think of Iowa State, I think of them as a great defense, poor offense, kind of like Iowa, but maybe a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, Iowa's offense. I mean, really, these two teams are not that far apart in terms of quarterback play as well as efficiency, looking at their overall weighted EPA per play on offense. But the key difference here is absolutely going to be on the defense. And what I'm concerned about from a Texas Tech standpoint is you have this team who started off 3-0 in conference play. I mean, Tech was tied for first in the Big 12 3 weeks ago. Okay, pretty deep into the season. Then they had 2 straight losses to Baylor and TCU, where they gave up 59 to Baylor and 35 to TCU. Now, again, that is a game where Morton got hurt and he was taken out of the game, so I give him a little bit of leeway there. But my problem here is Iowa State has a higher offensive and defensive power rating in our database than either Baylor or TCU. So if you're struggling against those teams, if you're getting beat down the field, if you're getting up explosives to the teams that are statistically inferior to Iowa State, what are you going to do in Ames, right? So I do think this is going to be pretty ugly, pretty quick. I think regardless if Morton plays or not, I think Iowa State's going to have Tech's number.
Not feeling the alt on this one, though, huh?
Well, actually, I was just going to say our raw number is 21.
Ooh.
So... And actually, the market just moved. There's now 13s.
13s, 13 and a halves. Yeah. Yep. So,
this may be a live podcast bet.
Takes notes. Takes notes.
I gotta be honest. I don't like, for the most part, right? I mean, college is a little bit different than NFL, obviously, but I really hate these, kind of dirty conference games where you're getting these, 2-3 score games. But I think if you're Iowa State backer here, if you're a Cyclone backer, you feel pretty with well reason that you should be taking taking the spread, in my opinion, or taking the favorite, in my opinion.
So if you can get a 13, can you get a 13?
I just saw one. There was one available, but it's at like one of those kind of obscure.
Okay, so
books.
13.5 is readily available.
Yes.
Okay, 13.5, and we make the number 16. That's a 1.7 or 1.97% expected value. So if you can get like a cheap minus 105, minus
You get a
102
minus
at FanDuel,
102.
that's a bet. I'm betting it. That's
Breaking
long
news.
live the Cyclones.
Yeah, Eric, can we get we need like a graphic and like a sound alert for when we do live bets during the podcast. We can
This is
get
the
that
first,
going.
I think.
Yeah, I know this
is a bet. All right, we'll just throw it in the chat there and
306.
memorialize it.
Yeah.
All right, shout out.
302 FanDuel. Make every moment more.
Hustle never sleeps, boys and girls. All right, that should be that's good. Yeah, I think like a better way we didn't talk ourselves into it, but
Let's go.
Math, baby.
Bet is made, fools. All right,
21. It's
sounds
alt
good.
season. This is alt season. I will look at this for alts. 16.5 would probably be a pretty legitimate alt. 20.5. We'll see where this closes.
If you're new here, our favorite season is alt season.
Yes, indeed.
Especially this time of the year.
All right, from the Big 12, we got one more matchup to discuss. Let's head over to the ACC. Let's talk about Pittsburgh and SMU. Another unbeaten team in Pittsburgh. We talked about three of them, I think, this week. Three of the unbeatens. Right? Am I missing that? I think three. But the last one up on the slate. But again, another game with quarterback uncertainty here. Kevin Jennings, SMU, questionable. Last I heard, Pittsburgh, Holstein, however you say it, questionable. So I'm almost just like, let's just flip a coin and see what's going to happen in this one. But for what it's worth, the market, this opened at -6 in favor of SMU and is now at -7.5. So my question to you, Seth, is which team suffers a bigger drop in efficiency in offense from going to their backups, if presuming both of those guys are out?
Probably Pitt, only because SMU's been doing this dual dance all season. They went through, they literally flip-flopped a number of different times, number of different games. Now, I'm not saying there isn't a drop-off, but they've been here before, so to speak. Yeah, I mean, these teams are quite similar. I mean, Pitt's defense is better they're both these teams are good at stopping the run. Neither of these teams are really run-first teams. I guess maybe Pitt a bit more, but for me, I think Pitt's pathway here is going to be finishing drives. They are 32nd in echo rate, but they are 65th in points per echo. This is a team that's going to have to get touchdowns if they're going to cover or win this game. But these are very evenly matched teams. Weighted EPA, Pitt is the 34th best offense, and SMU is the 32nd. So, I mean, these teams are, pretty much neck and neck. Now, the one thing that you pointed out there for backup in Pitt is this is a pass-first offense. And so when you're having a backup in, that could be a bigger of an issue. Pitt is 12% pass rate over expected, meaning this is a team that's throwing the ball 13 or 12% more than an average team. So that is a lot of times throwing the ball. And if you're going to a backup, that's going to be, affected, or they're going to be running it more. One of those two.
Yeah. Or at the very least, even if they continue to throw more, you could presumably expect a dip in production.
Yeah, drop off in efficiency.
Right. Yeah. And SMU, Steve, the SMU's only loss is to BYU, which at the time we were like, oh, that's a bad loss. But now it looks like a good loss.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, this for me was this is one of the ones where it was kind of an eye test for a stat sheet. And a lot of that is kind of the beauty of doing what we're doing, right? The whole journey of trying to be professional sports bettors and making data-informed decisions, because, in my former life, it's all just, hey, kind of look at the games, look at the teams, kind of glance over, and, oh, yeah, clearly this is going to be one way. And when I look at that, and for me, it's clearly SMU is going to score a lot of points. They're going to they're going to kind of outclass Pitt through and through. And I don't really think that that's the case here. For everything that Seth just pointed out here about how equal these two teams are offensively and defensively. Now, I think the one big difference, though, is Penn's defensive echo rate over expected. So I think what do we have them there at 7.58%? right? So, they're allowing teams to kind of to drive on them. Now, I will say from a Pitt standpoint, right? Yes, which quarterback is going to be the bigger hit. Yeah, I think I agree with Seth. It's going to be Pitt. So Eli Holstein did go to the medical tent in the fourth quarter against Syracuse, undisclosed injury. Head coach Pat Narduzzi is notorious for not disclosing, not discussing player injuries, which I really hope at some point we get a system like the NFL where we get injury reports and that kind of stuff. This is kind of ridiculous, but essentially it's in a wait and see mode here. He did admit that Nate Yarnell, who's their red shirt backup, is getting reps with the first team. But to Seth's point, when you have a team that is pass dominant, I think you're going to feel that a lot more versus SMU. They've been doing this stance not just this year with Preston Stone, but last year as well. So this is absolutely nothing new with the SMU offense. I really don't expect much of a drop off at all. With that being said, though, assuming Holstein can go, for me at least, because these two teams are so comparable, I almost feel obligated to take the points here with Pitt. You see, we make it 10, current spread 7.5. If you keep it above that, one score game, I kind of feel obligated to take the points there. But for me, this is kind of a toss up.
Yeah, we'll see how much as the week goes on, how much the market has already baked in one or both of these quarterbacks being out. Like I said, it's open at 6, it's already at 7.5. So just something to take note of, something to keep an eye on. So
raw model number here is 14.5, but this one's not all season for me because of the quarterback uncertainty. You're getting two. You could this could happen where Pitt's backup comes in is better than their starter, and SMU struggles. You can get any
double dose of unknown. Yeah, it's not ideal for betting situations. So
yeah.
All right, boys, that was it for our matchup portion of the discussion. Let's zoom out a little bit and let's talk college football landscape coming into week 10 here. So not a ton of movement. The AP rankings again came out here. Notre Dame jumped 4 spots from number 12 to 8, as well as A&M too. A&M's in the top 10 as well here, but no movement whatsoever as far as AP goes in the top 4: Oregon, Georgia, Penn State, and Ohio State. And then Miami finally moved into top 5. So I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts? Still, I mean, kind of ask this question, or any at this point in the season, 10 weeks in, are there which of the top 10 or top 15 teams, so to speak, do you think which of these is not like the other? Contenders versus pretenders.
Ole Miss is a pretender, and we finally got to bet against them and cover, and that felt really nice. They almost lost against an Oklahoma team that is not good, quite frankly.
They only dropped 1 spot. Yeah, they're 19th in the country now. But we've been kind of hating on Ole Miss for all season at this point.
Yeah, but the question here is, how good is Indiana, and how quickly can they get their quarterback back? Because I think those two things are really going to be important for the Big Ten. I mean, we're shaping up here where, what if Ohio State loses to Penn State this weekend? And then, you could have, it's going to come down tight here. And then obviously Oregon hasn't lost yet. Penn State wouldn't have lost. And then you have Indiana who hasn't lost. So that's going to be quite interesting. Is Clemson flying under the radar to the nth degree, where they're doing what they should? They're winning every game. They got backdoored by Florida State, which is a little bit embarrassing, but they're still winning. They're still dominating. Florida's had their close call, Miami's had their close calls, but no one's really talking about Clemson. Sorry.
Yeah. I guess that's an interesting point. Yeah, because I forget if it was last week or a couple weeks ago. Talked about the race in the ACC, and aside from that, getting backdoored against Florida State, they really have just been the Kirby Smart thing, just chopping wood, baby, just going about their business, covering, handling teams.
I don't know. One loss is to Georgia, which doesn't look very egregious at this point.
No, I agreed with that. I'm gonna see who do they play the rest of the way. They play Louisville this week. I think they don't play anybody. That's probably why they took a dip, technically speaking. But Louisville this week, then Virginia Tech. Okay, never mind. Pitt in 2 weeks. And then the Citadel. What the hell are they doing with the Citadel? In South Carolina. Oh, that's funny.
Hopefully putting belt to ass, as the kids say.
Is that even an FBS team?
No, the Citadel is not.
Jesus. All right. Well, that's why.
I think
That's
it's
why
a-
no one's talking
it's a-
about them. They're
it's like
playing
a roller
FCS
coaster.
teams in November.
That's just good. That's just a good GM, baby. That's just good scheduling. Knowing you got to go to the ACC championship game,
perhaps.
like you're gonna have to go play another extra game.
Mm-hmm.
But they play South Carolina week. That's their rivalry game. So that's not an easy rivalry game. They have to play another SEC team. This is an ACC team that's playing 2 SEC teams. So that sucks. So they get that. That's fair. They get to play Citadel week, whatever. 11.
But I think they play Citadel. I know for sure they've played Citadel in the past here. I thought that's like I don't know if it's. I'm not saying it's a rivalry thing, but I feel like that's a game that normally happens.
That's like a standing game that they have. Like
Yeah,
we
they got
play-
like
yeah,
a
Arizona plays
55-year
every year.
agreement or something like that.
Right.
Oh, God.
Wait, but hold on, but Seth, to your point though, you said things get crazy if Ohio State loses, but what if Ohio State beats Penn State? I think that's the crazier pathway for Indiana, because then all of a sudden you have Indiana who has a pathway to be undefeated, right? But now they have to play Ohio State. That's the big caveat, right? So you have Indiana who plays Michigan State, Michigan, who I think we can all agree is not the foe we thought they were going to be going into this year, Ohio State and Purdue to end the year. And then you have Oregon as well, who has to play Michigan, Maryland, Wisconsin, and Washington, rematch from last year's championship. So if Penn State loses this weekend, all of a sudden you have a straight shot for Indiana, Oregon Big Ten championship. And it's one game. It's one game. Can Indiana shock the world for one game, and all of a sudden they're the ones who are in this high seed for the college football playoffs?
Yeah, it's a fair call out. Bud Elliott has them as the 9th team in his playoff projections.
Wow. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I think for me though, I'm gonna keep repping the BYU train here. BYU rising in the ranks, rising in the AP top 25, rising in the Big 12 standings. They're just doing what they have to do. And then on the flip side here, dear Lord, Utah lost to Houston. Houston is the bottom feeder of the Big 12. Talk about a program you talk about Michigan crashing, talk about Clemson crashing when DJU was there, Florida State this year. Utah, dear Lord, that's a train on fire.
Called it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know what
9.5. Utah under 9.5.
Yeah.
Obviously we'll never know, but with him with Rising going down and
injury,
all that. That's
he's played his last snap.
One of those situations, but
for Utah, Kyle Whittenham's already come out and said that. So
yeah, no doubt.
This season or forever.
The dude's like 29.
No, if he
has a redshirt year left. Yeah, he has a medical,
technically medical redshirt now. Which if I'm him, you should do it, please, for all of us.
We need this.
Think about it. How much do you think he's getting paid in NIL?
Enough. He's fine. He's definitely
fine. No. But that's my point. He can stay and get paid another year.
Yeah, for sure. All right. We'll see. Let's move on, baby. We got our one of my favorite segments. We're going off the numbers, okay? So for those who might not know, this is the point in the show where the three of us give out each individually a different pick that we like across the board. Talk about rationale, whether we use the model as a foundation or a piece of the puzzle for that rationale is kind of up to us, but just some friendly little competition, friendly little banter that we got going on. So off the numbers this week, I'll kick it off just because we kind of already talked about mine, so not a ton to add, but I am on Ohio State -4. Again, I think part of me, I tried this angle last week with in the NFL and trying to get ahead of injury news, but it didn't work. It actually completely backfired on me. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on me again, I guess. But I'm going Ohio State -4. Yeah, I think presumably Aller is either going to be in and not 100%, or they will have a backup in. And regardless of how cute they get, yeah, I think the top to bottom resume, particularly on defense, is going to be too much for Penn State to really grapple with. So Ohio State -4. I did get that at +102 at DraftKings yesterday. So got some decent odds, even though it's back down to 3.5 across the market. So Seth, what are you on this week, man?
I'm just going back to the well here. I'm not going to stop until they let me down. I'm going Army versus Air Force here. In this case, instead of go Army beat Navy, it's go Army beat Air Force. I think I can get a 22 in the market. The market's actually buying a little bit of Army. Our raw model number is -29 here. I think it's a good spot for Army to just keep chugging along. Now, these kind of Air Force Academy games are usually tight, but this is a year of the haves and the have-nots. Air Force is just a team that has really fallen off where they have been in the last couple of years, and Army has done the complete opposite, where they have everything clicking, triple options, just going every which way. They're throwing the ball. I mean, this is a team like an Army team like we've never seen. So, Army -22, give it to me, baby.
I don't blame you for going back to that well. Yeah,
I'm not stopping.
Yeah, until they let you down, or even if they let you down.
Even after, I'm going back.
Shut up. All right, Steve, take us home. What do you got?
I'm also looking at the Ohio State Penn State game. I'm taking the under 45.5 here. Here's where we're at. So this opened at 47, I believe, and got bought down. And I'm really not trying to chase steam, but for me, it's just regardless of who you're getting at quarterback for Penn State, either going to have potentially a immobilized Drew Aller, or you're going to have a Bo Pribula who is going to have almost the plan book. But let's be honest, there's going to be some changes there in the playbook there to kind of keep him reined in. So I'm looking at that, and I'm highlighting. I expect Penn State to have some havoc in the front seven against the makeshift Ohio State offensive line in Beaver Stadium. Crowds going wild. Last year, this game was a 20-12 kind of rock fight. I see that sort of scenario playing out again this year. So I'm taking the under 45.5.
Okay. All right. Let's pull up the recap here for Off the Numbers Week 10. Steve finally on the board last week. I forget what you picked, but you took us home.
BYU, baby. Money line
right.
plus odds.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So
you needed it.
Yeah, you needed it. Yeah. Save some face here at this point. Jeez.
You know what's funny?
Right.
I told myself I wouldn't get cute again. Yeah, I did. I got cute with the Red River rivalry, the over. I got cute with the SMU over. I'm getting the cute here again with the totals, but I stand by it. Damn it. We're making a comeback.
Okay.
Is BYU on bye? You're not going back to the well?
They are on bye. Yeah. Can I take BYU Landscape?
It's soaking week at BYU. Got to take it off. All right. Off the numbers. That's it, baby. Let's see what we got. So, all right. Last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, we head on to Week 10 model predictions. So let's pull it off. It's a relatively small card. You know, first few weeks of the season, we saw a lot more volume, which is not to be unexpected for us. Things are normalizing a little bit more. So would not be shocked to see a similar type of volume the rest of the year. So, Seth, we got the card up here. Do us all a favor, just kind of run through what we got, and then let's talk about how we're feeling.
Yeah, we are on Louisiana Tech plus 10.5. They are currently winning right now, but we'll see how that game ends. But yeah, Louisiana Tech plus 10.5. We are on. Sorry, if you want to tail, Iowa State minus 13.5. UCLA plus 7.5, Northwestern minus 1.5, Minnesota minus 1.5, Wyoming plus 6.5, Stanford plus 10.5, Wisconsin plus 3.5.
Lots of dogs again, with the exception of
yeah.
I mean, we just added Iowa State, and then we got Northwestern and Minnesota. But
yeah, yep, exactly, and yeah, exactly. But hey, dogs have been barking. I mean, it's that time of the year, right? Where you like these are in conference games. These are hard fought games. You'll see the Army Air Force game on there. Ignore that. That's just ignore that. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So overall year to date record though for the motto 56, 45, and 1.
Yep.
First push. Good. First push of this. Yeah. We don't.
Which was sucked because they went for 2. So we could have covered that.
I don't know. Let's not get greedy here. North Texas getting that ass whooped for a large portion of that game.
I'm getting greedy. You're getting the ass whooped, and you come back. I mean, at least kick the PAT. Yeah, 55%. That's exactly where we expect to be. Now the good news here, probably another 50 to 80 bets we still got to make. So Buckle up, boys.
Yep. Yeah. Could be some high variance weeks, both positive and negatively, or we could,
just
see a
go
lot
up
of
from here.
2 and 3 weeks, that type of thing.
Yeah, it's going to be smaller volume for sure. Now, the one thing I have been doing that last week was the first week. I'm doing the same thing this week is I'm running the model based off the market every single day, and I'm picking up some extra stuff. So, that's another thing that at this point in the season, like keeping a close tabs on the market. There's definitely some, I don't want to call them scraps, but there's definitely moves that shift things in a certain way. One of them I didn't end up getting tonight. With what I ran this morning was this Raging Cajun game. It liked the Raging Cajuns at +4.5, and they're winning the game right now. So I think there'll be a lot more of that. So we may get more volume that way as well.
Yeah. Okay. And volume is your friend in most cases when you can,
especially when you have
these type of stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Precisely. So, all right, boys, it's been good. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Don't forget to like the video. Please give us a subscribe as well if you can. Appreciate you guys with the banter, the comments, and everything. It's good fun, good interaction as well. So,
and if you want to hear us talk about NFL, we're going to go over to NFL Live. So check out our page. You have to hit the notify. We'll be there in a little bit.
Yes, in a matter of minutes, as a matter of fact. So, all right, Seth, Steve, it's been real. Appreciate it. Until next week, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We're out.